talking about the church in Sardis. It's the next one kind of down the road. Definitely some different things about it, but I want to set you up first with thinking about something that a lot of times, probably the majority of us are very, very guilty of. Have you ever put on a front or a cover with other people? Come on. Anybody ever done it, right? Think about it. Like, maybe you do it for that special young thing that you see. And now you don't want them to know your laundry, right? You do not want them to know all your business. But what you do want them to know is, I'm the man. That's what they need to know. Right? Come on, guys. And ladies, you want him to know, I will eat some. We're not stopping at princess. I'm the queen. He will know. He will see me in my majesty. Right? Don't play. Don't we do that? You all know. You all know. Because here's how it changes. And your friends can call you out. Your friends can totally look at you and go, you remember what David did? I'm just saying that's exactly what David was just talking about. Because you'll be walking down the hall at school, or you'll be walking around like at the mall. Pick your mall, I don't care. Some mall may be like, I'm not walking around the mall like that. But, you know, it's like we go to certain malls, and at least in general, like, we're good. We go to other malls, and like, we kind of dress up, and we're good. You know? But you be walking through the mall, and you got that friend that you're walking with, and all of a sudden, they're like just totally playing around, whatever, and all of a sudden, certainly somebody else was walking by, and all of a sudden, you're like, did they just transform? I just watched Transformers live, like in that moment, because right? That's exactly what goes down, you know? And you see it. You see it in the school hallways, you know? And some of y'all that have been around some people like during camps and all that kind of stuff, like you're watching that stuff with somebody else, and all of a sudden, you're like in the hallway of school and you're like, that is not who I saw this summer? No, not at all. You know? Or maybe it's for that teacher that you want to put on that front. Because you've heard it is that teacher. And so you're like, I got to walk in here and act like I am like just totally a genius so that I can make this teacher really like me. Or some of you, I got to act like a totally lovely airhead so they'll sorry for me and pass me. Guilty as charged myself. I'm going to act like an airhead so the teacher will try and give them some love and mercy. And guys, you are not off the hook on the airhead. I'm just saying. Guys are not off the hook on that airhead play. Or what about to your parents? Because see, as we grow older and a little bit more independent, because we're like learning how to stretch our wings, we still want our parents to think, girls, Daddy, like you're 5. And it works. It's true. It does work. I mean, I was looking at Jenny the other day and I'm like, seriously, you look like this big to me right now. You know? She's not. She's like 14 going on 20 or something. But seriously, like, so girls, you know it works. You put that little cover on that. And you know that if you were out in public doing that, your friends would look, what is wrong with you? You know? And guys, especially as you start to get a little bit older, some of you it's more like playing in a mom. And mom. It's not that, because you do that to dad, dad's going to be like, oh, shut up. You do that to mom, and she's going to be like, yes, baby. That's just true. It is true. And girls, sometimes that works the opposite way for you. You're like, you know, you go to mom, she's going to keep it real. So you're going, Daddy. You know, it's like, hi, Mom. Daddy. You know, you put on that little whatever. And a lot of times, even putting on that cover because you sure don't want your parents to know what you look like at school. Or when you're hanging out at the mall, but when you're at home, you want them to think you are their little angel or their little stud, you know? Or maybe you put on that front or on certain friend groups. Because when you're in some friend groups, you got to act like this kind of a friend. But when you're in this kind of a friend group, you got to act like this kind of a friend. Or this friend group, you got to act like this kind of a friend. Only one problem with that is like when you're a Christ follower, if you turn around and act like a Christ follower with one group of friends, for example, here, but you go off to school or you go off to this group or that group, and you're all acting like a fool. It has nothing to do with Jesus. What if that friend that you're around when you're acting like a fool that has nothing to do with Jesus? What if they come with you or came because somebody else brought them? Maybe. Surprised they're here at church with you now. And they see you here at church around your church friends where you act like a Christ follower because that's what you're supposed to do around your church friends. They're going to be totally confused thinking, wait a minute. Is this who you really are? Or is this who you really are? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about because some of your friends have been confused, or maybe you've been confused by others. And it's kind of like, which one is real? Because think about it, go back to the dating one. When you date and you're going out with somebody or whatever, for the most part, people like to put their best foot forward. They'll be like, hey, look at all the, the glorious me, the good me, the whatever me, And a lot of people do that. The problem with that becomes, they keep moving down that road and all of a sudden they get married. And all of a sudden who they get married to, all they've ever seen is all the glorious beauty of things, not the bad that we all have in us. And all of a sudden it's a whole new thing. We start to realize like people have like these weird things about them that we're like, ooh, hold on, I don't know about that. What's going on? I'll never forget, I'll give out 2 little tidbits of me and Lisa's first coming together, having to get to understand each other. One of the elements was, this was back in the day, but I used to only have 3 boxes of cereal, give or take, like that, in my house. And I would have one opened, and I would eat it until it was gone. And then I'd go to the next box of whatever it may be, finish it. Well, Lisa now is living with me because we were married. And it helps when you're married that you live together. So she's living there. And she gets a box of cereal out of the cabinet that was one of the unopened boxes. That was what I said. And so I asked what I thought was a very reasonable, peaceful question. What are you doing? And she gave me a look like most of you would give. I'm giving a box of cereal to eat. Kind of like, that was pretty self-explanatory. There's a box of cereal in my hand, And so she gets it. I'm like, but wait. We already have one that's open. And then she says, I don't want that one. What? What? You don't want the one that's already open? And I'm just like, come on, somebody be with me. I was like, what's wrong with you? Eat the one that's open. And she in just purest form, opened that bag right on up. Now, just so we are all clear, I have grown since that day. I think now, we had 3 boxes of cereal in my cabinet. I seriously would break out in hives and have serious shake issues. We get down to 6 boxes of cereal in the cabinet, I'm really having a hard time. I have 2 rows of cereal in my cabinet. When I go to the cereal to pick up one thing, they know. He is walking in with Oreos and cereal when he walks back in his house. They're not even on the grocery list, but I will find a way to bring them back into my house. And anybody's been to my house, 2 big long lines of cereal. And it's not like shelves like this. It's a pretty open cabinet. And it's front row and back row. The front row is an open row. Of you're healthy, you're not healthy, whatever. So I have grown since you can only have one open. Now I don't want any on the back row open, I'm still weird. But the front row, that's where all the open cereals go. Get your sweet, get your whatever, healthy, whatever. Cereal's healthy. I don't need to know that the back row is open. Whatever channel's not, so I can say, focus on preaching about Jesus. Because right now it's going to just freak me out. No. But there was another moment that happened. Then I'm like, we're taking best foot forward. That book right there, because I was like, whoa. But then we had another moment, and man, I know you don't be with me on this one. You'd be like, oh, no, she didn't. I did not grow up with this tradition of on New Year's Eve, on New Year's Day, you eat this thing called black-eyed peas. I did not grow up like this. I cook them, I have macaroni, you know what I'm saying? What's this black-eyed pea business? It's a vegetable, all right, whatever. I did not grow up like that. But we got married on December 13th, giving you a timeline here. So just over 2 weeks later, it's New Year's Day. And Lisa's like, I'm going to cook us some nice New Year's Day lunch. She makes this cornbread. Smells good. I love to make some cornbread. And she has pot, black-eyed peas going, smelling good. So how's it smelling? And then it's time to eat. And so we have this little bitty kitchen. Just poor people, this is all that is. We got this little thing that we, little halfway islands. It wasn't even like a real island. Like 2.5 of us could fit around it. I swear. True story. But we're sitting here at this island and getting ready to eat. The refrigerator's kind of behind me. And I look, it was missing something. I saw the black-eyed peas. And I see the cornbread. But there's something that's missing from the plate, right? What's missing, guys? Meat. Thank you. Can I get a hallelujah? Hallelujah. So I look, and I asked an innocent question, y'all. Where's the meat? And Lisa looked at me, she said, what are you talking about? This is, I mean, she prepared this last meal. She's like, let's see. Has he lost his mind? Because it's possible. You know? And I'm just thinking, where's the meat? She's like, don't have black-eyed peas and cornbread. Well, I was aware of that. But I was like, where's the meat? So, in a lovely, submissive way that she can do this, she just walks right around. Opens the refrigerator. Grabs some deli meat out the drawer. There you go. And I was like, what just happened? And we learned real quick along the way that, we are definitely going to have some things to learn about one another in this house. That's reality. That is reality. But we all, y'all, are like that. We've all got things to learn. We were going on a trip, and I'm not going to go into detail, and nobody in this room is going to make noises either that went on this trip. We were on our way to Estes Park, and I learned that somebody likes to communicate with bodily functions. And I was like, did not know that. Sneezed a little blood on the back of my neck at one point. I was like, this is cool. We got to be really close, really bonded. And I was like, all right, this is cool. And here's your option. You either love that person like that brother or sister that they are, or you act like you're all better than that. Because we all have it. Right? Don't we? We all have those things. We all have that one thing about us. Some of you girls, I remember like even when we were filled with bed, they were talking about some of y'all's laugh. But don't play. Some of y'all girls, you're sitting there and you probably don't think about it. You're sitting at lunch, and I know because I was there last Thursday at Tasca City High School. You're sitting at lunch, doing this number right here. You just get through eating. And I was like, what? And I didn't know who the person was, so everybody don't be looking around in here like somebody's guilty. Unless you're like, I do that all the time in front of everybody. But this girl was just sitting there. Keep it real. But this girl was just cranking it out right there. And I was just like, I wanted to just go, y'all want to have bathrooms here in high school? Get some gum, just chew a little bit. Let that kind of pick it out for you. I was just not understanding what's going on. And I'm sure to her and to her people, what's wrong with this? What is wrong with this? Nothing. Not even think about it. Again, we all have our things. Like, I will never eat liver. I know what the liver does for your body, so I don't want to eat no animal liver either. You know what I'm saying? Same function. And there are some people that is like a delicacy. And it reeks. It smells. I'm like, I don't even want to be around you. But I have to understand, well, that's just them, and they grow up thinking liver's a delicacy, and they've been fooled, and that's cool. So I'm just going to love them through that because it's not a sin, so it's fine. All right? We have to do that. Because here's some commonalities we all have, y'all. And this isn't for y'all like, I don't know, what was it going to fit with Sardis, so we've been looking ahead. We do need to know who we are first and straight up. Here's the easiest one. Straight up, we are sinners. Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. I don't care who you think you are. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, period. We're sinners. We're sinners. And we need to get that in our head. Some people don't want to get that in their head. We're going to come to that a little bit later. But we are all sinners. We're all going to screw up. That happens. That's not just for my knowledge about me. That's for my knowledge about you. But that's also not just for your knowledge about others. That's also for your knowledge about yourself. But not just are we sinners. We are absolutely loved by God. We're sinners, but we're loved by God. That's also everybody. Romans 5:8. God demonstrated his own love for us that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He demonstrates his love, his great love for us. That he let Christ die for us. We are so loved by God. And a lot of people don't get that. They want to turn around and think the world is against them for whatever reasons. But we've got to remember, we are loved by God. All people are loved by God. And there'll become some different things in there, but we'll get there. We're loved by God. And the next thing that we got to know, we are totally saved by grace. If you're a Christ follower, you are saved by grace. Ephesians 2:8-9, not by works so that no man can boast, y'all. Not by works so that no man can boast. You are saved by grace. Some people struggle with that because they think, you don't know all my sins, so I'm going to have to do things to make you want to forgive me of my sins, make you want to turn around and accept the fact that I'm a sinner, so I've got to do. And guess what? You can never do enough. Do you hear that? I really want you to hear this and understand this. Because I think a lot of times we almost play God to people. We are saved by grace, not of our faith, not by works, so that no man can boast. But yet, people have to do and do and do and do. I'll believe so-and-so is done doing drugs when I see them doing A, B, C, D. And then we'll see if they're really forgiven. Praise God that my God does not forgive me like that. Hello. But it's hard for us as people to do that. But we've got to remember, we are sinners, loved by God, and saved by grace. But here's the problem. Just like there were three of those, there's three of the others. Here's the first one. Temptation is everywhere. You even try to ignore temptation, and it's still everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's a half-naked woman on some ad somewhere walking down the mall. Some signage when you're driving down the road. Right, guys? You can't avoid that junk. It's everywhere. And think about how many times people turn their heads. Even in school sometimes, you got to turn your heads, right? It's a shame. It's everywhere. Temptations are. They lure us. Temptations, they're obviously, we're going to send it look good, nobody do it. We've talked about that. But there's temptations that are everywhere. That being said, 1 Corinthians, as cool as in my devotion this morning, 1 Corinthians 10, but if temptations don't get you with one of our problems, our pride will get us. Be careful if you think you're standing firm, lest you fall. That's 1 Corinthians 10:12. And I want you to catch this. You may not be worried about temptations, but a lot of times we can get so lulled into the perfection of who we think we are, even though we'll say, I know I'm not perfect. But really, don't tell them. I'm pretty close. You know, we play that game sometimes. We'll go there with that in a minute, but for real. Pride will get us, because what happens is we quit leaning on God and we start standing on our own strength. You won't make it, you're standing on your own strength. And that's why he says, be careful if you think you're standing firm, lest you fall. Because all of a sudden what's going to happen, you're going to see this with Sardis, you turn around and done. You're like, when did that happen? That I fell asleep in my faith. When did that happen? And the third thing is this, troubles. Temptations may not get you, pride may not get you, but you know what? In this world you will have troubles. That's part of John 16:33. In this world you will have troubles. Sometimes temptations are going to come out. You know, sometimes this world just straight up stinks. Sometimes this world absolutely has bad things that happen. Because we live in a stupid, fallen world, and that's reality. Where people are all about themselves. Sin is everywhere. We know because we've all sinned too, so we can't blame everybody else for our. We sin. We're just as good as everybody else. Okay? Sometimes troubles are just going to happen. And things are gonna, do you know, sometimes you're going to have to study and you can't cheat. But you really hate that class and it's really a lot of work. Well, buckle up, buttercup, and get it over with. Because you still got to get through it. I know it's hard, but you still got to get through it. Some people, I remember when I went to Westfield back in the day, Westfield was not the football team that they've slowly become. There's a reason for that. I'm not going to go into all that part. But let me just tell you, Westfield used to just get, bang. Can you imagine how defeating that is to be on a team like that, y'all? Some of y'all are like, we get it. Okay, maybe you've been on a team like that, where all you're doing is you feel like you're losing. You know, you're on that team. But you're constantly losing, and you're like, oh my word. And you want to quit, and what do your parents say? You will finish this season? And next thing you know, it's, oh, you signed up for next year. You're like, I thought you just told me I had to finish the season. My parents know how that game works. Yeah, no. You signed up for next year, come on. There's character building when you keep losing all the time. Actually, there really is character building when you keep losing all the time. You have to learn how to persevere and keep going. But we're going to go there on another day. The world just has troubles. That's reality. And we're not always going to like things. We may not always like elections going on right now. We may not always like political leadership. Okay. But right now, in and of this moment, you can't change it. You can vote, you can do your part, but once things are done, they are what they are. And if they're completely against things that we believe in to be true, we still have to act like the Christ followers are supposed to be called to act like and pray for those in leadership anyway. True story. In this world, we will have troubles. But Jesus says in John 16:33, he also says, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And that's going to come into play here in a minute. In Revelation chapter 3. Open up to Revelation chapter 3 for me. Here's what the word says. Revelation 3, starting in verse 1. To the angel of the church in Sardis write, these are the words of him who holds the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. Basically, he's told the pastors, those leaders of these churches. I know your deeds. You have a reputation of being alive, but you are dead. Wake up. Strengthen what remains and is about to die. For I found your deeds unfinished in the sight of my God. Remember therefore what you have received and heard. Hold it fast and repent. But if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know what time I will come to you. Yeah, you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They walk with me dressed in white, for they are worthy. Those who are victorious will, like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot out their names from the book of life, and will acknowledge their names before my Father and his angels. Whoever has ears, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. One thing that I thought was interesting in this one, so leave your Bibles open there, but one thing I thought was real interesting about this passage, first off, there's not a whole lot of encouragement given straight out of the hat. In fact, it's kind of like, you have a reputation for being alive, but you're dead. He didn't talk to them, and those of you that have been here on other weeks that you've kind of already heard, he didn't talk to them about, y'all are following the teachings of Balaam. Y'all are following after the Nicolaitans. Like last week, you tolerate that woman Jezebel? He's not saying any of that. He's straight up saying, you have a reputation for being alive, but you're dead. In other words, I don't care what people think of you. I know the truth about you. You catch that? I wonder if this church, because there's not a whole lot of historical stuff about this church pre this letter, I wonder, you get a reputation because you do things, right? Some people are like, I don't want to be known like this. Well, you're the one who can change that. But it takes a while to change certain things. You get known for behaviors by how you continually act. And that's true. Now, do we need to give people grace? Absolutely. But do we also need to understand that when it comes to ourselves, well, if we gave ourselves a certain reputation that's not necessarily good, we need to understand it takes time to change that reputation. Does that change who we are? No. But what we're known as being. I wonder if this church was known for being alive, because maybe originally this church was like, it was the church. Like everybody's like, I cannot wait to go and get with the fellowship, and I can't wait to be all. And Sardis, that's what the people of God are. And God was moving and all this great stuff going on. They couldn't wait. They're not following after the Nicolaitans and the teachings of Balaam, and they tolerate no Jezebel. They're not doing none of that. I want to be what those people are. They don't play, they keep straight to Jesus. And I wonder if in that process, the people there were like, that's true. We really are strong. We really are good believers. We're actually better than other people, actually. We're good believers. Look at us. Are you going to touch me? You can't. It's true. And we laugh about that because, like, I would never do that. Kind of. But yet, how easy is it for us to do that? And go back to what I was saying about be careful if you think you stand, lest you, what? Lest you fall. I wonder if these people quit leaning on God, which is why they got a reputation for being alive. And all of a sudden, they kind of got lulled to sleep. Because it was all about them. Not the life of Christ in them. All about them. I wonder how many of us use excuses to get like that too. I was sitting there trying to think of something, I ended up writing some down. Some people might say, like, you don't know what I have to deal with at home. Like, I'm going to be a good Christian and all that, but when I'm at home, you don't know what my home is like, so it's just hard. So if I'm out off my parents, they probably deserve it. You don't understand. You don't know what I have to deal with at home. So make excuses like that. Or maybe we do this one. At least I live better than so-and-so. You don't know I'm all right. Yeah. At least live better than them. Oh, I didn't know that we were supposed to compare ourselves to others. I thought he said, be holy as I am holy. I thought Jesus says, be holy as I am holy. Not live up to Britain's standard, Morgan's standard, Hayden's standard, Noah's standard, his standard. You can so live better. I can easily say I live better publicly than a whole lot of people. In fact, I can list off those on death row right now. I live better than them. So, am I living like Jesus? That's what matters. Right? You can say, because I don't live like them. Look back and say, yeah, but do you live like Jesus? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. What about this one? And some of y'all know, it's half of our reasons for not doing devotions half the time. I'm just so busy. Tell you what, if we put as much devotion into our faith and our walk with the Lord as we do with everything else we're involved with, I wonder how we would be in everything else we're involved with. Or are we expecting God to bless us in everything else we're involved with while really sacrificing our time with Him? God, I don't have time for you because I'm really busy, but if you don't mind, if you can totally hook me up and bless me in all these areas, thanks. But especially, I don't have time for you, but please make all the time in the world for me. You understand, I'm just so busy. What about this one? It's hard being rejected. How many of y'all would say it's hard to be rejected, just as a fact? Not as an excuse, just as a fact. It's hard to be rejected. You like to be rejected, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, please, would you reject me today? Thank you so much. That's stupid. But a lot of times we are afraid. We're afraid to stand up at that one party that's going on that's like, they don't need to be doing that at the party. And we're afraid to stand up because if we stand up and open our mouth, all of a sudden we're shunned. We're on that party bus, it's doing a little bit too much on the party, and we don't. All of a sudden, they're the goody goody, can't have them around. And then I don't want to leave my friends. Shoot. Or, I'm not going to act like they're acting. If they're going to act like that out on the field, when they're dancing, when they're cheering, when they're in the stands, I'm not going to do that too. Because my relationship with Jesus is more important. But oh gosh, if I do step aside, I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to look like an idiot. In whose eyes? The eyes of the one you're standing for. You're not judging nobody else. You're just stepping aside because you know you got to keep around with Jesus. Don't judge nobody else. This isn't about calling others out. Remember, you're talking about living up to Jesus' standard, not theirs. And don't be judging them to whatever your standard is either. They don't need to live up to yours. But Christ followers need to live up to whose? Christ's. But you see how that excuse really can lull us to sleep? I don't want to get rejected. So I'm just going to just stay chill, stay status quo. Everybody in this one. You don't know or understand how other people treat me. Could be in the church, could be out of the church. It really doesn't matter. When you allow other people and how they treat you to affect how you choose to act and react and do it in a negative manner, that's still you stepping away from Christ and keeping your eyes on Christ. You can come up here and kick me in the face, and how I choose to act and react to you, that's on me. That's on me. If I act out to you in a manner that's not worthy of the gospel, that's not your fault. It's my fault. You understand that? But you see how we get lulled to sleep by easy excuses? In this church in Sardis, I love what he says. And he just straight up said, wake up. I remember when he said wake up before, back in the garden in the book of Mark. He was talking to the people. He was talking to his disciples like, dude, hello. You need to watch and pray so that you don't fall into, anybody remember? Temptation. Watch and pray so you don't fall into temptation. How can you watch if you're asleep? Can you? Can you watch if you're asleep? I mean, some people might freak you out and you think they're watching because they're sleeping like this. Y'all know the people I've done it before, like my legs out and falling all in, but y'all know, right? The people that got their eyes, and you want to mess with them, right? Because they got their eyes open while they're sleeping, and you're like, I'm not really asleep, but we're going to have fun now with that person, right? But hear me. When you're asleep, I want you guys to understand this. Because there's a reason he says wake up. And I want you guys to grab practical understanding. When you are asleep, there's two things that take place. Number one, you miss the good things going on around you. If you are up in church and you're just playing church and you're lulled to sleep in church, you are missing things that God could be doing. Why? Because you're just sleeping. And I'm not talking about physically being asleep. I'm talking about spiritually, just lulling yourself to sleep. Just getting by. I don't care what your reputation is. The reality. You miss great things that God wants you to see. I know we talked about something that happened one time. We were at a cool worship thing, and man, just people just started worshiping, and the song just kept going and going and going. And there was somebody there that was like, "It did." Were you not there? Yeah, but I was talking. you still probably should cognitively have been aware that the song keeps going over and over and over repeating. And it was actually being led by the people. It was a camp, and it actually was led by the kids, and they just kept singing. The leaders weren't even doing anything anymore. And straight up, a kid did not even have a clue that happened, and they were in the room. You might miss somebody get, oh, they got saved during service? That's cool. Because I had no idea. I was in my own world. I was thinking about something else. You miss the good things, but here's what else you miss. That's part of why Jesus says, I'm going to come in the night you don't know. Like a thief. He uses the word thief, kind of like somebody's going to be like, no thief is like, oh, all the lights are on. People are obviously home having a good time. I'm going to go rip them off right now. This is great. No, they're waiting for the lights to be off. They're waiting for that one moment. And they're going to be like, I was thinking, because reality is thieves do not want to show up at a house that people are there. Thieves want to show up at an opportunity where they can get what they want and get on out. If you're asleep, you're going to also miss those bad things that are welling right up to you. And all of a sudden, you open your eyes and there it is. And it's almost too late to do anything about it. You weren't alert. You weren't watching. And I'm not talking about being physically asleep, y'all. The church at Sardis wasn't physically asleep. They were spiritually asleep. And he's like, y'all, I've got so much more for you. In fact, I want you to understand. He says, there are those that haven't soiled their clothes. There are those that have not gone out. They are awake, basically. They haven't started living in sin. Because you know what? You people that are lulled to sleep, it's interesting that he doesn't call out their list of sins. He just says you got a reputation for being alive, but you're dead. Wake up. Remember what you've heard. Strengthen what you've been given. Repent. He doesn't tell us what their sins were. Because we're all sinners, loved by God, saved by grace. What he's saying is, you know where you need to be and you better get there. Let's go. And there are some that are living right and doing the right thing. And they're going to be dressed in white because they're worthy. Jesus calls them out as worthy. But this is the part that I feel most of us will fall into that I think is so cool if we just make sure that we're awake. He says, remember John 16:33? In this world you will have troubles, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Now listen to this. In verse 5, somebody read verse 5 from your Bible, loud and proud, of chapter 3. Those who what? Chapter 3, verse 5. Those who what? You got a Bible open right there? The one who's victorious. Somebody else that says something a little different, another word? Conquers. There are other versions that say those who overcome. It's all the same. Overcome. Victorious. Conquerors. Basically, getting over in victory. Getting over in victory. Those who overcome, listen to what he says. Like them will be dressed in white. Here's the deal. He says, if you overcome, you too will be just like those who never soiled themselves at all. You'll be just like them. Do you deserve it? No. Some of them ones that are they're like, how come they get to turn around and get dressed in white now? They didn't turn around and stay consistent. Well, let's go back. When you really understand how much grace you've been given, and when you truly wake up in your faith and walk in your faith, realizing how much of a sinner you are, loved by God, saved by grace, the more you live in that, the more likely your life is going to change. And sometimes, have you ever heard of somebody needs a wake-up call? You ever heard about that? You know what I'm saying? You know, wake-up calls. That's how most wake-up calls happen, right? We all need them. Not in a bad way, sometimes in a very loving way. We need somebody to come alongside us and say, hey, baby, what's going on? You need to wake up. You wake up. If that really is our heart wanting to do it for Christ, we're actually not going to be bitter that they're also dressed in white. We're going to be pumped. Because there's another person that just like us woke up. in spiritual faith. Realizing that they're sinners loved by God, saved by grace, just like we are. And that's his whole point with Sardis. He's going from the get-go. You may have one reputation, but this is the truth. Just like us. We may put on that front, we may put on that cover because we want people to think certain things of us, but the reality is, we know and he knows exactly who we are. True story? True story? And you know what's kind of unfortunate? If Robert puts on a front with me, how is he ever going to know if I really love him? Or is he only going to know that I love the front that he's giving me? You follow? How will he ever know? Lisa and I, when we first got married, we had been friends before we ever dated. And then when God brought us together, yeah, there was a little bit of best foot forward, but there was also kind of some, oh, we're good. When we got married, we still had to learn. We're still learning. We're still learning about each other. But how do I know that she loves me? At any stage, if I don't let her see me. And is that fair? You guys, this church put on a front that everybody could try and see and think one thing. But because of the front they put on, people weren't able to truly see Jesus. And that's why he wants them to wake up and overcome that. So here's my challenge to you tonight. This is how we're going to just close. 2 parts to this. Here's the first one. Do you have something that you need to overcome? Do you have something that you need to honestly wake up in your spiritual life about and say, okay, I've got to overcome? See, it's not always about how hard you fall. I've learned more and more as I get older. It's about, do you get up after you fall? Not about how hard you fall. It's about, do you get up? And if you get up, most likely you don't want to re-fall again. Otherwise, you might as well lay on the ground. True story, right? It's, do you get up? Sometimes when you fall, and it's hard. It's hard to get up, man. We watch football on Sunday. We watch this people having a hard time getting up. But when they get up, even if they're limping up, what do people start to do when they start going off the field? Why? You're good. Because they're proud of them. Way to go. Especially if they're like, don't touch me. I can get up. I'm going to do this. Because they find that strength within. Guys, do you have anything that you need to overcome, that you need to quit laying on the ground, and you need to get up? For some of you, it's going to be easy. Just stand up, you're good. But for some of you, it may be more of a, better be a whole lot easier, too, if some of us will come alongside you, help you up. Let's listen to the second part. Just what do you need to overcome? Are there people around you that you need to help overcome? That you need to help remind? You know, they're like, oh, I can't cuss around you. Don't be different around me. Be who you are. I'm going to love you no matter what you do. Or, yeah, I heard you over there gospel left and right, but you know what? I'm still going to love you. Now, I heard you gossiping, trash. But, yeah, I did. I heard you gossiping. I know what you did. But I'm going to love you. I'm not loving what you did. I'm loving you. Do you have people that God's allowed to have close to you in your life that you need to come alongside of and be like, we got to change this. We got to fix this. maybe on your team, maybe even whatever you are with. You need to quit making excuses, and you need to start helping overcome. The religious are the best known for kicking those that have fallen. The religious are the best known for shooting their wounded. I want us to be the Christ followers that are best known for seeking to overcome with Christ and helping others do the same. Much better reputation to have in it. You don't have it by talking about it. You start by, are you overcoming, or are you helping others overcome? What are you going to do? I guess we'll see. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for your word. God, I thank you that you tell us to wake up. God, I thank you that you give us patience while we're sleeping. I thank you, God, that you know our reputations. And God, you know us. And I pray, Father, when every one of us in this room will be known as being Christ followers. Every one of us in this room will be known as seeking after you and you alone, your glory and your grace, Father. I want to lift you up because, God, we know that you lifted us up to life. Father, I thank you for everyone in this room. God, I thank you, even for the students that could be here tonight. God, I pray that you help us, Father, live as overcomers. Live as those who will truly take what we hear from your word and live it out. That when we fall, we rise for your name's sake alone. God, we know we can do it because, Father, Christ has brought us to life for those of us who know him. So in his name we pray. All people said, amen. Have a good night.